So our third panel, we have speaking will be SAG-AFTRA National Board Member and actor. There's been a lot of buzz about our next panelist, Sean Astin, please. Any chair. Andrew Gina, Research Director for the Amalgamated Transit Union, and Sandra Barredo, Government Relations Advocate with SEIU California. Whenever you are ready, yes, we can.
All right. Wow. First time here. Thank you, Chair Ortega and Vice Chair Flora, members of the Assembly, Labor and Consumer Protection and Privacy Committees. Thank you very much. To my fellow participants, attendees, for the opportunity to share with you all today. I want to acknowledge my SAG-AFTRA union fellow members from the Los Angeles Local Government Affairs and Public Policy Committee and the rest of our helpers, Shane Guzman, who you guys know. My name is Sean Astin, and I am a professional actor. But my appearance here today is rooted in the fact that I was elected by the members of my union to serve on our national board representing 160,000 members nationwide, and on my Los Angeles local board representing 80,000 members. And if you add in our San Diego local and our San Francisco local from the state of California, about 90,000 members. As you can imagine, when it comes to artificial intelligence, all of our members are extremely concerned, and with good reason. We're already feeling the unsettling effects of this technology in our daily lives and on our livelihoods. More than that, our dignity is under assault. I want to share two concepts that I think are both true. First, there are times throughout human history when technological advances change the very nature of our experience as human beings. Artificial intelligence is clearly, obviously, just that. 10 years from now, the way we live will have changed in ways we can't even imagine right now. Two, sometimes products or systems come along that change consumer demand, rendering earlier technology obsolete. That is not what is happening here. This is not a buggy whip situation where they were made redundant by the advent of automobiles. This is more akin to horse thievery or carjacking. Artificial intelligence is exciting. It's wonderful. These companies are driving not just innovation, but jobs, our economy. We love our tech companies. But the unethical use of their innovations must be identified. This hearing has been an eye-popping consideration of just some of the things that are happening. The unethical use of these innovations have to be identified and stopped at all costs. Tech companies, large and small, the studios, networks, and streamers are not responding to market forces. Their technology adventurism is nurturing a systematic dismantling of our profession, where maintaining a career is nearly impossible for most of our people. 10% qualify for health insurance each year. 10% of that 160,000. Where once a performer could achieve a middle-class existence and their share of the American dream, they are now unnecessarily forced to approach the industry as gig workers. SAG-AFTRA, along with the Writers Guild, IATSE, the Teamsters, and other sister entertainment trade unions, are the canaries in the coal mine. We are among the first to confront this particular threat, where, in the case of our performers, our identities are being siphoned away from us. Our performers are the first to have our names, likenesses, voices, and body movements abused by this technology. But we are in the vanguard. Last year, our historic 118-day strike led the way in the labor movement. Our 118-day strike was our membership saying no. They demanded that we do something, anything to address this existential threat to our community. Some advocated for a total prohibition on artificial intelligence and digital replication. When this couldn't be achieved, we zeroed in on three core tenets of how our people are related and relating to this technology, some of which has been indicated. Consent, compensation, and usage. The language we achieved in the contract was groundbreaking as far as it went. But now, as we are inundated with developments and advancements that we knew were coming that couldn't yet be addressed in bargaining, we are existing in that awkward space of waiting for another 2 years in our contract cycle to play out, during which time the incredible speed of advancements won't be able to be challenged. The average member is caught between understanding the real-life implications of the agreement we reached and the contract enforcement, which feels pretty distant, as the companies test the boundaries of the good faith portions of the agreement in ways that throughout American history big business has often done, with little care for the human beings they hire. For example, per the contract, they're supposed to give our people 3 days' notice before requiring a decision to be made regarding consenting to the digital replicas or use of artificial intelligence. They're supposed to give us a separate, clear, and conspicuous consent document with a reasonable description of how they intend to use it. Well, they are not honoring the spirit or the letter of that agreement in cases. We have evidence of them requiring every performer to sign off without offering sometimes what their advanced time that they're supposed to, but also without offering the information as to what they intend to do with it. You can imagine the complexity and the practicality of enforcing that rule. So our members are asking, wait, if you're going to require my consent, even when you have no expectation of using it, why are you doing that? They have reasonable questions about what sort of biometric data is being captured, how it's being stored, and to what extent they're using it beyond the spirit and maybe even the letter of our agreement. Our members are left to wonder what kinds of bias are happening in the hiring process. Our union is powerful, and we enforce the provisions of our contracts. But given the size and nature and scope of the challenge we have, we need your help. Only government has the ability to impose sufficient enough consequences in the only language these big companies understand: money. I'm not going to bring up specific legislation, though dozens of states and the federal government are managing a plethora of bills. What I would say about the dynamic I just described is that we need... Is that for me? My wife pushed that button, I'm sure of it. Couple more pages or no? Yeah, is
Sure.
that okay? All right.
Yeah.
What I would say about the dynamic I just described is that we need an informed consent language Bill of Rights. Not just for us, but for all people. This will be one tool to help prevent or deal with deepfakes that can terrorize anyone, including legislators, made to look as though you are behaving in ways you wouldn't behave or supporting positions you wouldn't support. I'll finish with what I believe the biggest AI issue is facing our industry and our members. The tech companies make an audacious claim that doesn't pass the smell test. They assert that when digital information is ingested into their large language models, it all goes into a black box. The characters and information go through some magical, mystical, unknowable transmogrification such that when it comes out on the other side, there's no trace of its digital origin. Our ability to police their usage is impossible. Performers are left to scour the known universe and look with a magnifying glass to see how much of their nose or what notes of their voices or how a person or a creature moving is them. I believe in this case, we are dealing with dishonest brokers. We need the full weight of the law to level the playing field, because where the limits of bargaining end, only you can hold them to account. We must establish provenance. We must protect the chain of title to our identities. Anything less, and our people feel as though a piece of our soul has been taken. We feel violated. Our identity is who we are. It's the vessel that holds our reputation and the emblem of our value. In 2005, the industry standard was to add watermarks to all filmed entertainment. In this way, they cut down on piracy. When it's in their interest to protect their products, they are tech geniuses. When it comes to protecting our product, our very selves, they pretend they just don't know what to do. We demand that all data that contains our image, voice, likeness, movements, and other critical information unique to us, such as our union number, member number be captured, embedded, and protected. Whether it's through blockchain or other technology, we're entitled to know how we are being used. I sincerely thank you all very much for your laser focus and quick action on this profound issue of public import that is incredibly complex and often very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions that I'm capable of.
Sean, as you mentioned, in some industries, it's difficult to support something that's so unique and proprietarily creative to a person. It's theft. And I think that's something that's incredibly important for us to think about in both of these committees, how we wrap our hands around that, how we regulate this in a way that protects the authenticity of the input that's been given to us by the folks who are doing the real work. And so thank you all for testifying from each of your unique and independent perspectives. And also, I know we're waiting for those federal regulations, but it's also not lost on us that as California goes, the country goes. And so whatever we can do to be a part of advancing this conversation in a way that's meaningful, this information is valuable, but lean on us and push us to do that, because that's what we should be doing.
Can I just say that they can afford it?
Yeah.
And all labor knows that when management does the right thing, it's better for their bottom line. It's better for the community. So we want to help them be better, and you guys can help us in that.
Well, we've got your back, and also thank you for reminding me that I am not the only person here who's buzzer trained by my wife.
Assemblymember Creel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sean, we all want to know where you live and who is like the member that represents your area and when they're terming out, so that maybe you might consider running for office at some point.
It's the West Side man right here.
Is your area?
I don't want to tell you because that person will think that it's a threat. So, I live all over.
Well,
Calabasas is where I live. My
Got
wife
it.
and family and I
I
live.
am your representative.
There you go. So it's no threat.
Voting for me.
Yeah, I will. I have. I'm sure.
just
The human connection is certainly important.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
have a thought about what you said
Yeah.
about our business. It's so we have our wages and working conditions process where any member can come in leading up to a negotiation, and their concerns inform the plenary and our proposals that we push across the table. When this technology came in, 25 years ago or more, it was so exciting. It was so exciting. It was a new frontier. It was how are performers going to deliver a performance with the dots all over their head, or what's it going to be like to animate a creature performance? What we're in now, and it's hard for a lot of people kind of in the public to understand, and it becomes a political football, is the idea of the entertainment industry as an actual industry. We have actual workers who work. It's like a factory job. And when you end up in a situation where the industry is being, tightened, there's a natural contraction happening anyway. But when the attitudes and the behavior and the hiring and the demands that are placed on you end up creating a kind of punishing experience for those performers, that's when you need good bargaining, and it's when you need good legislation to back that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say it's interesting in my work on, name, likeness, and image. One of the things I've seen is the distinction between the movie studios, and the Recording Artists Association, and how they really, the relationship with the recording artists with their industry is very different.
Yeah.
Right. And there's sort of mutual benefit in protecting the intellectual property of their artists in a way that I think has been really fun to watch, to be honest, because they've aligned the interests such that they believe protecting the artists is in their benefit. And to your point earlier about, we know that when business puts workers first, it helps the bottom line. And I wish all industries would get there.
I want to acknowledge a guy who's here, Eric Pasoja, who is our member. He's actually the co-chair of the Los Angeles New Technology Committee. And the kinds of work they're doing in their committee is just mind expanding. And so when you talk about like how technologies are being woven and used and shaped and where we can balance from each other, it's it's an exciting challenge. We don't hate tech. Just want to protect our workers.
Yeah.
And that, I will pass it over to Assemblymember Irwin.
Thank you very much. And I think this more for my constituent
Yes.
from Calabasas, not your constituent. Because when you're talking about transportation or state workers, you're talking about within state boundaries. So you're talking about workers that are in California. Obviously, in if you're talking about the movie industry or the recording industry, that's going on throughout the United States. I'm doing a bill right now on transparency and training data. So trying to really have these companies talk about who they trained on, and hopefully, getting eventually that will.
That's
lead
so
to,
important. I'm so glad you're doing that.
Well, we will see where it goes, but this is and this would be a bill that only affects work in California. So the question is, for work that spans across the U.S., how do you see that? How do you see that playing out? There are a lot of states that are not necessarily as sympathetic to union workers. They're looking at just the bottom line. And
That's a great question.
there is a lot of discussion about we need the feds to do something, but all of us know quite clearly that issues like privacy, the first bill in California passed in 2018, and Congress still has not moved on that issue.
Yeah.
So how would you answer that? How do we get other states to make sure that they are playing by the same rules? Because eventually we are going to be putting the right type of guardrails and transparency on. California will be doing it first, but that's not going to be the case in other states. And we don't want, for instance, movies to move, these companies to move to Georgia.
Well, I studied a little bit about the right of publicity as a area of intellectual property law, and there's all of these. I picture it like a battlefield, and you're going to move this piece into play, and you're going to move that piece into play. We are a national union. We have performers in New York. We have performers in Atlanta and Dallas and Florida. I mean, we're a national union. So the cool thing is that our contract travels with us, but in terms of legislation, it's California. We're working federally. We will find a way. I mean, we have bandwidth issues. How can we work with, we'll pick the states. Indiana has a great piece of a great law that deals with this publicity right. So, maybe our union will figure out how to dovetail with them. But when it gets right down to it, this room, you people, you're the ones who are going to lead the way on this. So thank you ahead of time. And we will be making sure that we help facilitate the conversations with the federal legislators and whoever the hell else we need to include in the conversation. We will. The most important thing for me for this moment is that there is, and it's clear that there already is. Actually, I was at Daryl Issa had a hearing, this similar type of hearing in LA, and he had Adam Schiff and Matt Gaetz in there, and everybody in between, and they were jumping up to agree with each other on this issue. And so then I did a round table, and it had all the what do you call them, the general counsels of a bunch of the studios, and they were listening very closely because they're ready to jump up and protect their First Amendment rights, but they also know that their entire libraries are in jeopardy. So they want to make sure that they're more than happy to use us as a blocker and kind of run behind and achieve some of this stuff for them. So it's a great environment, I would think, to be legislating in, because aside from the all important tech industry that supports this entire city, you've got a lot of support across the state and around the country.